of our students are going to be impacted by this, and we couldn't do it without you. It's a labor of love, and we appreciate everything you've done, Volusia County Schools. We are 100% all in.
I think it's very important to give back to your community. I think it's definitely important to give back to those in need, and the Basket Brigade is a very good opportunity for those in need.
As you can see, this is the JROTC Deltona Wolves Battalion, and we are doing in something we like to call Troops Online, which, as you can see, we go all the way up and down Howland, down Wolfpack, and we line all of our cadets all the way up, waving flags in honor of the veterans. We hope to give inspiration to everybody to love our veterans. We recognize the history of veterans, and we do hope that, for example, these guys, when they pass out the horns, we love to just raise the spirits of everybody on Veterans Day. Hoorah! There we go! How motivated, dedicated are you? How right, dedicated. You check so, you check so. Horse! Horse!
I spent my time with underwater demolition SEAL teams in the Navy. I guess most people say I'm a pretty tough guy, but when it comes to seeing the way these young men and women are honoring our veterans, it just brings tears to my eyes. So I'm so encouraged by it all.
CAD scan and 3D printed bone structure for the doctor.
It's a great opportunity for our schools and our teachers and students to kind of network with some of the local manufacturers. They get an opportunity to go around and see what our local manufacturing industry produces, what we make here, and it also gives the manufacturers an opportunity to see what our students are doing in the area of STEM education and robotics and so forth.
Pine Ridge students in the Manufacturing Academy will produce state motto plaques for Volusia County School District buildings. These plaques will be created with a laser engraver, and the motto can be engraved onto almost any surface. Students creating these plaques will learn design and how to use the engraver. They will also gain hands-on experience that will be expected of them in the real world. The Manufacturing Academy will offer these plaques to all schools within the district.
online learning meets the needs of students who learn productively on their own time, in their own space.
It's really flexible. You know, you can really do it at home, do it at school. It's easier. You can work at your own pace sometimes, and you can really get things done.
They have access to highly qualified teachers who are available to assist them, to talk with them, and to get them motivated to complete their courses.
I chose it because I wanted to graduate early, and that was an easy way for me to do classes that I needed for senior year.
For students who have a lot of responsibilities like jobs and sports and other extracurricular activities, taking an online course will benefit you greatly because of the flexibility.
Morning, buddy. How you doing?
Good.
Right.
I'm a military brat. My dad retired from the Army. I lived overseas many years. I switched schools. I went to 3 different high schools. I understand diversity. It's a team effort, and I think my skills and my abilities will fit in well at Deltona Lakes Elementary.
Slow down, guys. Slow. Thank you.
I know there's a need for safety and security, and I thought that based on my background and my experience working with kids, I would be a good fit to fill that role.
Morning, guys.
That's what I try to do every day, is greet everybody, give them the greeting, good morning, good afternoon, whenever it may be that I see them, and just set them up for success for the rest of the day, because what you put out there comes back. So if I put out positive, then I'm going to get positive in return.
Morning, buddy.
I want all the kids that I come across to understand that they do have an opportunity, and they have to take advantage of the opportunity, which is education, and take it on to middle school, high school, and all the way to college. Just stressing the importance of education while keeping an eye on them and making sure that they're in a safe environment.
This is going to our families. Over 2,000 of our families, 10,000 of our students are going to be impacted by this, and we couldn't do it without you. It's a labor of love, and we appreciate everything you've done, Volusia County Schools. We are 100% all in.
Take care. I think it's very important to give back to your community. I think it's definitely important to give back to those in need, and the Basket Brigade is a very good opportunity for those in need.
Deltona Wolves Battalion, and we are doing in something we like to call Troops Online, which, as you can see, we go all the way up and down Howland, down Wolfpack, and we line all of our cadets all the way up, waving flags in honor of the veterans. We hope to give inspiration to everybody to love our veterans. We recognize the history of veterans, and we do hope that, for example, these guys, when they pass out the horns, we'd love to just raise the spirits of everybody on Veterans Day. Hoorah! There we go! How motivated, dedicated are you? All right, dedicated. You check out. You check out. Oh! Oh! Hoorah! Hoorah!
Let's go, veterans! Let's go, veterans!
I spent my time with underwater demolition SEAL teams in the Navy. I guess most people say I'm a pretty tough guy, but when it comes to seeing the way these young men and women are honoring our veterans, it just brings tears to my eyes. So I'm so encouraged by it all.
CAT scan and 3D printed bone structure for the doctor.
It's a great opportunity for our schools and our teachers and students to kind of network with some of the local manufacturers. They get an opportunity to go around and see what our local manufacturing industry produces, what we make here, and it also gives the manufacturers an opportunity to see what our students are doing in the area of STEM education and robotics and so forth. Start.
Pine Ridge students in the Manufacturing Academy will produce state motto plaques for Volusia County School District buildings. These plaques will be created with a laser engraver, and the motto can be engraved onto almost any surface. Students creating these plaques will learn design and how to use the engraver. They will also gain hands-on experience that will be expected of them in the real world. The Manufacturing Academy will offer these plaques to all schools within the district.
Volusia Online Learning meets the needs of students who learn productively on their own time, in their own space.
It's really flexible. You know, you can really like do it at home, do it at school. It's easier. You can work at your own pace sometimes, and you can really get things done.
They have access to highly qualified teachers who are available to assist them, to talk with them, and to get them motivated to complete their courses.
I chose it because I wanted to graduate early, and that was an easy way for me to do classes that I needed for senior year.
For students who have a lot of responsibilities like jobs and sports and other extracurricular activities, taking an online course will benefit you greatly because of the flexibility.
Morning, buddy. How you doing?
Good.
Right.
I'm a military brat. My dad retired from the Army. I lived overseas many years. I switched schools. I went to 3 different high schools. I understand diversity. It's a team effort, and I think my skills and my abilities will fit in well at Deltona Lakes Elementary.
No doubt.
As Secretary of the School Board, it is my honor and my privilege to call this meeting to order. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we would like to have the oath of office for newly elected and re-elected board members. Re-elected, Ms. Linda Cuthbert, District 3. A newly elected, Mr. Ruben Colon, District 5. And newly elected, Ms. Jamie Haynes, District 1.
Choice. Mr. Colon wanted Raul Zambrano, but he's on his way out of town, so my feelings are hurt, but I'm here anyway.
Why are you looking at me when you say that?
All right, if you would, please raise your right hand and repeat after me, and I won't go long. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution and government of the United States and the state of Florida. That I am duly qualified to hold office
office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties of school board member of Volusia County,
perform the duties of school board member of Volusia County,
on which I am now about to enter. So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Here's how old I am. I went to junior high in this building. Actually, the other one too, but it burned down. Wasn't you? A long time ago. Got it? All right.
Okay, I think
Lisa.
Lisa comes first. Okay.
That's not funny. I have to be nice to her. She's my neighbor. All right. Well, congratulations. Bye.
The staff and I believe that service as chairman of the board is a special honor which brings with it special obligations and responsibilities. I would like to take this opportunity to extend our thanks and appreciation to Mrs. Linda Cuthbert, current chairman, who provided excellent leadership and dedication to the position. We also extend our thanks to Dr. John Hill, who served as vice chair during 2018.
Yay.
The agenda now calls for nominations for the position of chairman of the board.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Carl Persis as chairman of the board, please.
I second that motion.
Mr. Persis has been nominated as chairman of the board by Mr. Ruben Colon and the second by Ms. Ida Wright. Are there any other nominations? Is there any discussion?
I'd like to discuss it. I think Mr. Persis would be an excellent choice. I do hope that recently there's been a lot of negativity, and I hope that you are the advocate. You are considered the owner of the school district. You are the one who will be served when there's a lawsuit. You will be the one, yeah, you have to get used to that. It's a little scary at first when that server comes up to your front door. There's so much responsibility. You are the face, the leader of the school district. And I look forward to your positivity and your proactiveness. Okay, so thank you.
You can count on it.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Any other board member comments? This time I'd like to call for the vote. Are there any, are you ready for any questions? Or okay. Those that vote Mr. Persis, chairman of the board, please say aye.
Aye.
Any nays, please say, or any noes, please say nay. Congratulations, Mr. Persis.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to call for nominations for vice chairman of the board.
Mr. Secretary, I would like to nominate Ida Wright as vice chairman of the school board.
I second that.
Thank you. Ms. Ida Wright has been nominated for vice chairman of the board by Mrs. Linda Cuthbert and seconded by Chairman Carl Persis. Are there any other nominations? Is there any discussion?
Just like to make a comment, if I may. Mr. Russell. Okay. Many people in the audience probably do not know all of the involvement that you have, and of course Ms. Cuthbert has with the Florida School Board Association. And just thought maybe you could take a second, Ms. Wright, to tell them what your position is there and what you've been doing.
Thank you. Yes, very engaged with Florida School Board Association. I was the vice president for the state of Florida, had been nominated for the incoming president for the state of Florida, but I declined the position. I felt we had enough work to do here in Volusia County, and with my other duties at Bethune-Cookman, I felt that I just needed to decline that. But I'm happy to support our chair and to make sure that we in Volusia County have the best public school system. I am a graduate of Mainland High School and born and raised here in Volusia County. I know that we can offer the same type of education that I received, and I believe Carl received. Jamie, are you Volusia County? No. And Linda Cuthbert's children, and maybe your children received, but my priority is Volusia County. And thank you.
You're awesome.
Okay, thank you. Are you ready for the question? For those that vote for Mrs. Ida Wright to be vice chairman of the board, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay.
Nay. Oh, pardon me. You told me
Strike
to say.
that from the record.
Please strike that from the record.
You can't tell I'm nervous. But yes, I vote yes.
Okay. All right, thank you for the heart attack. All right, so at this time, I'd like to review the calendar for the upcoming school year. Do we have can we project that onto the screen? Okay. We have to turn in the date to the state today, along with the certification of the swearing-in ceremony. The discussion that we heard quite a bit last year from board members were that there was not enough time for the board to discuss issues. There was not enough time for our district personnel to do presentations, and we could not go into depth. There was a recommendation to start the board meeting or start meeting once a month at 9 in the morning. I did discuss this with Miss Elizabeth Albert from VIEW, and she was worried that teachers could not come into the meetings and come to speak at the board meetings. Even if it ran a little bit later, we would have to make some modifications. She thought maybe starting in the afternoon. She did understand the need for presentations. So what we did is we had 3 options. Option 1 was workshops from 9 to 12, and the regular meeting starting at 2:30 as our first meeting of every month. Option 2 was doing the workshops at 1 o'clock and beginning our regular meetings at 2:30. And option 3 was keeping it at 5:30. The second board meeting of every month, the design would be to have public input, do recognitions, and then handle consent during those meetings. You will see there are some asterisks by January 22nd, April 23rd, and I believe it was October 22nd. And a board member did ask if we could move those 3 board meetings to a week later. There would still be 2 weeks between that meeting being moved. Instead of a 3-week flag, there's 2 weeks. But we were asked to take that into consideration. You will also see on April 9th and April 23rd that one of those 2 meetings or both, there will be charter applications to be reviewed. Mm-hmm. And I think we've all learned that goes very, very late into the night. So for those meetings, we would need to start early. But let's say, for example, on the 9th, there's no charter reviews. We would go back to our regular time. Another board member made the following recommendation for August 13th. That's the first week of school, and what was recommended was, instead of having a meeting the first week of school, can we designate this board activity to visit, all of your schools? in lieu of in that meeting. Therefore, having one meeting in July and one in August. Finally, we do have both in July and in September where we will have to meet at 5 budget hearing, and that must happen after 6 p.m. And so I know I've shared with this with you all. I did tweak it a little bit as comments were coming in. And so if we'd like to discuss this at this time.
So, Mr. Secretary, I would like to, I'm the one who highlighted this in blue, guys. Just workshops, I believe an hour and a half would not allow us to discuss issues that were pressing to us. And I just felt that 9 to 12, and then if we want to start our school board meeting at 2:30, giving us a chance that if we need to leave, make phone calls, take a break, that we could. And one of the things I recommended that every time we start a workshop, maybe for the first 30 minutes or even the first 45 to an hour, that we always go back to our strategic plan, having a financial report, looking at our budget to actuals to know where we are monthly. In the event that the superintendent has a recommendation or something need to be changed, that we can have time to discuss that and not just belabor our meetings on issues that we probably need to workshop.
I agree. This year has been very talkative, and we have been able to express a lot of our experiences. I agree with Mrs. Wright in the fact that we do need thorough investigation, because a lot of the length of our school board meetings that did go late was because of our discussion, which is very good. We need to have all the views out in the open to be discussed so the public can hear it and the public can comment on it. I do want to say that I will not be in the country on January 8th. So if we postpone that 22nd to the 29th, can we go from the 8th to the 15th?
So are there any discussions on the three options?
I certainly understand what you're saying, and I see the need for it. I guess my only thought was it seems like there's a long downtime between 12 and 2:30.
And
that's
that was
the
for
only
view,
thing.
so that if teachers want to come at 2:30, and I think that's what Elizabeth asked for, unless you want to start later, like 11.
You know, I was thinking earlier, but structure the meeting in such a way that, you know, that first hour is, we take care of some things that perhaps the union wouldn't be that interested in. You know what I'm saying?
Restructure the meeting.
Restructure the meeting a little bit. I was thinking starting it at 1:30.
Oh, that's fine.
I mean, start at 9 and end at 12 and have the lunch break and whatever. And then
I think maybe too, Mr. Persis, that that there might be the time period between in case we go over 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we have gone over time. So, and I think that's that leeway plus lunch in order time to get back and get a few things taken care of. We might have meetings with staff, with Mr. Russell.
Yeah.
I think it allows, because I know what you're talking about, going all the way back to Orman, all the way back, and me, all the way back to, or just hanging around for that time.
Yeah, it's just kind of a long time. I don't know what you all need to.
So, Mr. Secretary, so my challenge with the earlier times is that folks that work in the district, parents, will not be able to attend around that time. If we have our meetings at 2:30, I believe that we may be shutting out the public, and I would hate that perception. I would hate, parents are picking up their kids. I get that the 5:30 meeting is going to be consent items, which means it'll be a lot quicker. However, the items that would be discussed in these earlier meetings are those of public interest usually. And so for a parent to get here at 2:30 in the afternoon, or a teacher or any staff member, that would be a challenge.
One recommendation that I can make, and we have that we have done this in the past, you could also have a time certain public input, let's say at 5 or 5:30.
So are you saying keep the workshops from 9 to 12 and just keep our meetings period at 5:30?
Well, in the interest of the public, I think, because, you know, if you think about the folks that come out and speak, it's usually either a parent that's has an issue and...
No,
yeah.
I'm fine with that. That's what I'm saying. But, and we're just saying that we know we need some workshops, especially with 2 new members, so that you would have time to just sit down and digest. Right. So you're saying keeping the meetings at 5:30 and having our workshops at 9?
I would agree to that.
See, then I live almost an hour away, and I would just be, I mean, you have members from the east side too that have to come pretty far, so, and that would, I think that would cause us a hardship.
So what if we move the workshops to about 2:30, start early enough there where we're sort of taking care of a lot of business in one day, yet still allowing us enough time to...
Or I actually like the idea of restructuring the order of what happens during the meeting.
Okay.
If you restructured what was going to happen and provided the public input at a point where parents would be here to speak about their concerns.
Okay. So I'm asking workshops. So are you suggesting we move workshops to a later part of the day, or keep them where they are?
I'm fine with the morning. It's nice to have 3 hours of uninterrupted time in order to do a workshop.
Okay. And then keep the meetings. Within what time would you recommend the meetings? On just once a month?
I'm okay with the time that's suggested if you restructure what's going to happen in the meeting so that parents can give input.
Okay.
Or community members.
Just from a legal standpoint, you are required to have public input before you take any action. So if we move public input, it cannot be after the board takes any action whatsoever, because otherwise the input would be after the fact. So I just want to mention that.
See, because usually in our presentations or in the meetings, there are topics which are not of contention or you know, that can certainly be discussed, like you said, time certain.
Right.
And so at that point, folks can come and know that we're going to speak about textbook at 5 o'clock. We may have started at 3 with consent items and all that good stuff that we do talk about, but then those would be time certain.
Well, we could look at workshops from 1:30 to 4:30, break, and then begin at 5.
I'd agree to that.
Begin at 5 or 5:30?
5:30 would be, we could do that.
So
So that's for
the first one.
The first board meeting of every month.
Okay.
So 1:30 to 4:30 would be set aside for workshops. A board meeting would then begin at 5:30. We all agree?
You just lost an hour of workshop time. You reduced it from 3 to 2.
From 1:30 to 4:30?
Nope, that should be 3 because one.
No, 3 hours. Yeah.
3 hours. That's right.
And should we go over, we'd have that extra little buffer as well.
But if we do this with regularity,
Yeah.
you know, once a month, I think we could.
Yeah.
But I also
I guess, go ahead.
Just also want to let you know that it'd be his fault because he's in charge of the agenda.
She's pointing at someone over here.
Carl Persis is in charge of the agenda now. So.
Oh gosh. I guess what I'm thinking, though, is that I think the intent of this initial setup was to have the first meeting, if you will, a longer meeting, and then the second meeting of the month would be a shorter meeting. And I think this is a model that the superintendent can speak to from other districts. Our neighboring ones, and they seem to like it. The board members do, and staff does, and community. It seems to work. If we do not start a workshop until 1:30 and get finished at 4:30 and then come right back to it at 5:30, we really haven't achieved the intent of modifying the calendar. And in addition to that, if we have a long meeting at the first meeting and we've already had a 3-hour workshop, you know, our brains would get kind of tired too. So I don't know whether we, you know what I'm saying, whether we'd be achieving our goal of modifying the calendar. So I think what we're trying to do is to somehow get the workshop time in, which we all agree that we need, and at the same time being able to have that long meeting at the first of the month and the shorter meeting at the second of the month. And I don't know, Mr. Russell, if you want to talk about, is it Flagler or Orange County or
and Duval,
some of them?
And I can speak to that.
Yeah.
Most of the larger counties, from Duval to Hillsborough to Orange, all of them have a meeting in the morning and a meeting in the afternoon, and that's for the purpose of, because you have parents who say, you know, I'm available in the morning. I would love to come to school board meetings, but by the time I pick up my children, dinner, blah, 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 I can't. So we serve two types of constituents here, and in order to maybe address that, we start looking at other districts' models. Again, Duval to our north and Orange and Seminole to our west have this so that you can capture both groups where it's not always in the evening or always in the morning. And that was the purpose of us looking at both of those models to say, let's look at workshops. Most of them have workshops, committee meetings in the morning, have a workshop starting midday. They do start about an hour after their workshops. But they've been doing it for a while, and they really do have this down to an art. And then they have one meeting where it's really simple, finish in about an hour. But even in January, parents can have public, there's always time for parent input. And normally parents would come to that meeting because they do recognitions only once a month, right, so that they can bring parents and students, and if they want to have a chance to speak, that they can.
And also, there is no public input during workshops.
Right.
So the workshop time is strictly for the board to do the work.
Yeah. I think it gets down to what Jamie said. If the superintendent, we all know which items will have large community interest, and certainly not to bury those in the middle of the day. That those would be the ones that we'd want to schedule at that 5:30 time or at the end, right, so everybody would have an opportunity to be here. So I don't know, the superintendent, if you wanted to elaborate any further on that. What Ms. Wright said.
Oh, that is, I do remember the historical knowledge. There was a time that this school district did have morning board meetings.
Yeah.
One meeting a month. So that's not unusual for our county.
Yeah, I believe it was the first meeting at 9 and the second meeting was at 4.
Yes.
Yeah. And remember those days where we used to have a board meeting at a school,
right?
And and then that turned to be problematic after a while. Go ahead.
And so yeah, the thinking was, and from what the board said, several times last year, that there was not time for rich discussion. And then I can tell you, as superintendent, we wanted to do presentations. Board members asked for presentations. Then the decision was, which ones do you cut when they were valuable? So that's why we were excited about starting one board meeting a month earlier, so we could have those discussions, really look at issues, and then get board direction. So that was the thinking, behind this. Now I'm very flexible, whatever option you all decide, and then we'll go through the dates, and then we can lock into those, and then after that we can submit it to the state. I was about to say Ms. Wines, I'm sorry.
Mr. Russell, so for the sake of the public that's here and the discussion, can we take like a 15-minute break and then a lot of my folks that are here to support me are as well probably want to go and have to go back to work, and maybe we could finish the discussion.
Oh, sure, certainly.
Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we want to adjourn
Yes.
for 15 minutes?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Oh, no problem. It's always good to have a break. Okay, so we're returning to talk about the first board meeting of every month and the times. We've heard 1:30 to 4:30, and then having a 5:30 start to the meeting. We've heard 9 to 12, and the regular meeting starting at 1:30. We've also heard, what was it, 10 to 1 was one option we just heard, and then starting the regular board meeting at 3:30. That would allow for elementary.
2:30.
Yes, especially.
2:30. I thought she said 2:30. 3:30.
3:30, especially.
This is just another option.
Yeah, especially if we extend the elementary day, it might help, especially +1 schools. That 3:30 might be optional. I kind of like that 10 to 1.
It's fine with me.
The 10 to 1 with the 3:30.
That's fine with you, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, from where I sit, I can see value in like all of these, and I think if we just, to me, the key is structuring the meetings and putting the agenda items that are of the most interest to the community scheduled at a time when most of the community can be here. And as long as we do that, I think we're fine. Mm-hmm. And so whether it's option 1 or 2, I'm fine with it, because to Ruben's point there about we don't want to exclude parents, but as long as there's always going to be a meeting at 5:30, and so for those items that are concerned, we'll put it at the 5:30 a meeting, and if we need to schedule other things that during the 9 o'clock meeting or 10 o'clock meeting that are just the more mundane things, the business things, we'll do it that way. I'm just trying to consolidate it in such a way so that there's not a huge break in the middle of the day. To Ms. Cuthbert's point, it's and I guess I speak from the experience serving on the county council, and we would start our meetings at 9 o'clock, and then we would have this built-in lunch thing, and then that lunch took place whenever we decided to break for lunch, but then that lunch would turn into maybe 2 hours for lunch, and then you get started again, and the meeting would go 8 o'clock at night or 9, and it it just wears you out, and so don't want to get into that. If we can avoid it.
And so, Mr. Chair, and to Ms. Cuthbert's point of being an hour away, would 3:30 or 2:30, 3:30 I think is what we're talking about, be enough time for somebody at the extreme of our county to be able to get here safely?
At 3:30? A parent, for instance?
A parent, a teacher, an administrator who wants to be here?
I do believe the elementary and the high school teachers, I know they would be out by then, by 3:30. Middle school will be running it always runs later.
Right.
And it's, as Mr. Peirce has said, it's how we structure those big events or those big items that the public's interested in. And we could really, what we're going to have to do is just massage the way we run our meeting.
Yeah.
See, we can always test it and see how it is, but also I'm looking at traffic patterns. If you put it later, they're going to still have a hard time getting here because people are now getting out of work. Coming over 44, as well as 1792 at times, the traffic is much worse an hour later. So the 3:30, I think, helps. And the way that meetings were before, we were a good 15, 20 minutes in before we did public participation.
Mr. Secretary, so I move that we go with the option from 10 to 1 for our workshops, with our regular school board meeting starting at 3:30 on the first meeting of the month, and keeping our second meeting of the month starting at 5:30.
I second.
Okay, so a motion has been made for our workshops from 10 to 1, and the school board meeting starting at 3:30 for the first meeting of every month. Any discussion?
So I'm okay with that, as long as we definitely try to structure those topics of interest. And what does it look like if we have to go back to the drawing board? Do we simply just have to resubmit to the state?
Yeah, Ted can speak to that, I think.
Yeah, the statute requires that you provide them a calendar today, but you can modify it at any time. So you could literally, theoretically, sit down and rewrite the whole thing at the next meeting, but obviously we don't want to do that. But yes, you can modify it at any time.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, there's another piece there's on the calendar issue. So we have the board meeting on January 8th, and we were asked to move that meeting to January 29th. April 23rd, move that meeting to April 30th. And October 22nd, and moving that meeting to October 29th. Is there any discussion?
I'm not opposed to any of those.
Yep. I'm fine with that. I'd like to make a motion to amend our calendar. We will accept what was given to us, except that we changed the date from January 8th to the 15th, January 22nd to the 29th, April 23rd to the 30th, and October 22nd to the 29th.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Do we have any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you.
And Mr. Russell?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Russell, is there anything on August you wanted to address? Or I thought you said something.
Oh, yes, they're August 13th. Would the board like to discuss either keeping the August 13th meeting, or from August 13th up until the next meeting on August 28th, you would visit your schools in lieu of that meeting?
I like that idea.
I do too.
Right, and I brought that forth because normally our first meeting during the first day of school, we're all out to schools,
Right.
and we really don't have a lot to report because nothing has really transpired. We've taken care of that in our July meeting.
Yeah.
And so rather than having just meeting for meeting's sake, let's just move it to the 20, just have one meeting in July and one meeting in August.
So I'll make a motion that we move the meeting date.
I second it.
Okay, the motion has been made to strike the August 13th meeting, and in lieu of that meeting, the board members will be visiting the schools in their district. Discussion?
And then that means the August 28th meeting, which is, let's see, you have a workshop there, but that's the second meeting of the month? Or I guess we're calling it, or is that the first meeting of the month? Or it's the only meeting of the month?
It's going to be the only meeting of the month, that's why.
So that's why we're having a workshop, even though it's the end of the month.
I believe that was the writer's error.
Oh,
it
there
should
was
say
an error?
5:30.
Yeah, Scribner's error.
Yes, yes. So yes, it would be a 5:30 meeting, Mr. Persis.
So, okay. And I'm just, because if that's the only meeting in August, that could be a long one. Just
Could be a long workshop.
Heads up on that.
Should we consider having a workshop prior to that meeting? So, God willing, everything will go smooth. First day of school, life is good. However, that would give us enough time to have discussion over the things that we discovered in the first weeks of school. And so that way we are not here till midnight at 5:30 p.m. because obviously start of school is always going to be, the maybe
Right.
the loose ends that weren't tied. So that'll also give us enough time to provide input
So
as
keep it
well.
as printed.
So are you
And if-
suggesting just going back to that 9 to 12, and then it would
No,
be
10 to 1.
10 to 1, and then a 3:30 meeting, starting at 3:30, right?
I'd almost like to leave that one at 5:30 if that's okay with everyone, because that will give folks a
can do that
chance to
once.
come.
We can do that.
Would you
Yeah,
like
sure.
1:30 to 3:30, 1:30 to 4:30 for a workshop, and then we can start at 5:30?
That
That'd
sounds
be
good.
fine.
Yeah, yeah. So we don't have that stretch in the middle.
Yeah, I think we do need to have the workshop because we hadn't had one since
Yeah,
June.
that's a good idea.
Very good.
Okay, 1:30 to 4:30, good.
Okay.
And I think that was the only other.
Yeah, so the motion has been made and
Amended.
the adjustment, so,
Okay, second? Or-
okay.
Okay. Or
All
was it
those-
okay, was
Um,
she already seconded
she
it, correct?
seconded it.
Okay, Ms. Haynes did.
Okay, all those that approve say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, we have a calendar.
Yay!
All right, at this time, I would like to call for the approval of the facsimile signature.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, it was, so there's been a call to motion for the approving the facsimile signature and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those that approve say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, moving on to item number 8. Call for discussion and approval of the nomination for the Florida School Boards Association Legislative Liaison and Alternative.
Okay.
Would you like to explain that role, please?
Ida and I have been, since I've been on the board, Ida was on it for 2 years, and I was her alternate, and then I became the legislative liaison. We are the ones who are working with the Florida School Board Association in a legislative possibility. We help form the agenda and the items that we want our state legislature to address. We meet every fall separately, and we also have meetings at our conferences. And I just had a go-to meeting on Friday that a lot of times they're on the computer. I don't mind doing it again if one of the new ones would like to be my alternative, so you can get involved and see what's going on. And I can take you along and tutor you so you can take over later. That's exactly what Ida did to me.
So I'll go ahead and make a motion that Miss
Cuthbert.
Cuthbert,
Yeah.
not your first name, be our liaison, and Miss Hain, if she accepts and time permits, be our alternate?
You good with that?
Or do you want to do it separately?
I don't bite.
I'm good with that.
Good. I second that.
Okay, so the motion has been made for Mrs. Linda Cuthbert to be the FSBA Legislative Liaison, and Ms. Haynes will serve as her alternate.
Okay. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Say
Aye.
All those opposed? Very good. At this
Before we
time.
adjourn,
Yes.
Yeah. It's a, you'll see that to the new members that you have, all the rest of us have this black leather case, and Miss No Longer Wines Spire. Mrs. Spire. Okay, she just got married. We'll put documents in here, so it will be available to you. It's a tradition that I buy these and present them to you. So let me do that quickly, Mr. Clone. Here's your official congratulations. All right. Yeah, you leave them here. She picks them up. You can leave notes in there. They'll be back at the next meeting, those kind of things. Any updated documents will be in there, those type of things.
And so it is my pleasure to turn the gavel over to the new chair, who will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. I want to, before I adjourn the meeting, I certainly want to say congratulations once again to our 2 new board members. You all are doing something, and you have done something that probably less than 1% of the population ever does. Is you ran for office and you won, and it's no one knows what it's like to be a candidate. Correct, until you've been a candidate and gone through all that. So for all your family and friends and everyone here, I know how proud they are of you, and I know how happy you all are too. So I just want to say, as a member of the school board, we are excited to have you both here and look forward to it. And in the spirit of Thanksgiving, certainly want to wish everyone a very happy holiday season. Spend this fantastic American holiday with your family and friends. Kick back a little bit. Go ahead and eat too much. It's okay with me. Celebrate. Watch a lot of football. Black Friday shopping, and it's just a great weekend. It's just so happy. I'm just so happy to be a part of this school district. I attended school here, graduated from Seabreeze, spent my whole life here. But so happy to be a teacher, assistant principal, and a principal, and now serving on this board with these fantastic people. We have a super bunch of teachers out there that work so hard each and every day, and they're giving their all, along with our other school employees too. So I think everyone can be proud to have their children in our Volusia County School District. I'm excited about serving as the chair, and we have a lot to do. We look forward to the challenges, and once again wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving. Without further ado, this meeting is adjourned.
However, now we'll convene the meeting of the...
Now we have to convene another meeting.
Yes.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to call to order the Volusia County School Board Leasing Corporation. And we must, our first order of business is to elect the president of the Volusia County School Board Leasing Corporation. Do I have a motion?
Madam,
or do we need to?
Yeah, you'd have to get a motion.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I recommend Chairman Persis as our president of the Volusia County School Board Leasing Corporation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion carries. And the next item of business, election of the vice president of the Volusia County School Board Leasing Corporation. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to recommend as vice president of the Volusia County School Board Leasing Corporation, Ida Wright.
Thank you. We have a motion. You have a second? And we have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries. Ms. Wright is our vice president of Volusia County School Board Leasing Corporation. Third item, election of the secretary treasurer to the Volusia County School Board Leasing Corporation. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to recommend as Volusia County School Board Leasing Corporation secretary treasurer, Mr. Russell.
We have a motion for Mr. Russell.
Second.
Second from Ms. Wright. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries. Mr. Russell, congratulations. I don't see any further business, Mr. Doran?
No,
so
no further business.
The Volusia County School Board Leasing Corporation meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Yeah.